Welcome to Monster Men.
By the way, I think that we conceived this show. I'm sure I conceived this show with Jack just so I could get to this point. So 9 years later, we could have somebody who really knows about UFOs to come on here, other than me talking about UFOs and everybody mailing me tinfoil hats. So we have a very super amazing special guest. His name is Ryan Sprague. You might know him as the podcast genius of Somewhere in the Skies, author of the same book, Somewhere in the Skies, with brand new, did you say 80,000 new words in the new edition?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Woo. And you've seen him on television, I'm sure, if you like us and like paranormal shows and UFOs. You've seen him. You know him. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Guys, I can't tell you how much this means to me. We've been going back and forth for months, and we finally made it happen. And I'm a big fan. I had my monster shirt earlier.
Jack,
I
check this
show
out.
your audience, just to get my street cred with the Monster Men. Hold on. Here we go.
There you go.
I mean,
all right, so
it's a little ripe. I'm gonna put it that way. I've worn it out during the Halloween season.
all right,
that's okay.
let me clarify something here. I am a fan of UFOs and everything like that, but nowhere to the extent that Hunter is. So he's already like, this is Christmas morning for him. But
Yeah.
his favorite universal monster is the creature from the Black Lagoon. So the fact that you just held that up, I mean, game over, man. Game over.
And it has Misfits, the name of my book.
Yes.
I'll show you. My Creature from the Black Lagoon flask is never far from
Ah,
mine.
that's awesome. What can I say? I know how to kiss up to the hosts of the show.
Good
the shows
job.
I'm on.
You've done well. You've done well. Well, I am really excited to have you. This is going to be great.
Hey,
Yeah. So I read your book Somewhere in the Skies when it first came out, 2016 I think it was. And when we moved, I had two giant Tupperware boxes of just UFO books. One of them I cannot find. I'm hoping it's buried in the dark recesses of our storage unit. So I was so psyched when I heard that you had a new edition with, expanding on the cases and updates. And when we were going to have you on the show, went right to Amazon. Said, next day delivery, let's go. I even put my Travis Walton book down once I got this, because I told you I had just met him like a few weeks ago. So I could read this, and man, this is so good. And I love the fact that you're presenting cases to us, but not through a filter. You're not coming at it with an agenda. Your agenda is to say, hey, what's your story, and share your story. And I think several times you've had people state in your book that anybody who says they know what's going on doesn't know what they're talking about. So I wanted to get right in. If you could, I'm a big drive-in fan, drive-in movies.
yeah.
There is an incident in your book, which I think Jack will love, about your sighting at a drive-in. Could you tell us a little bit about that? I think that's fascinating.
Absolutely. I'm so happy you like that one, because this is one of my favorite cases from the book. It was in the 2016 edition, but I did update it because we had some updates and developments in the case. And like you mentioned, Hunter, that's kind of what the book was for. I wanted to follow up with all the people from 16 and see what was going on in 2020, the year of UFOs. Everything kind of changed in the past few years. So kind of wish I'd written the 16 book a little later, but what can you do?
Who knew?
Who knew? Nobody. I can tell you that much. No UFO researchers out there knew this Pentagon program was going to come forward or even existed. Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure we'll get to all that. But back to the drive-in theater. Yeah, this one happened in 1974 with a gentleman named Scott. He was a retired Coast Guard worker and postal service worker. And back in 74, when he was younger, he went to a drive-in theater with a buddy of his. And they go in the parking lot. They get their spot. They're getting ready, having a smoke, just ready to watch the movie, maybe meet some girls, whatever. They're just going to have a good time. And right when the movie was supposed to start, they looked at their watches, and nothing was happening. Like, okay, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe they're starting late, whatever. And Scott remembers a detail that I did not put in the book, but his watch stopped. He didn't know what was going on, and he asked his friend. He's like, "What time do you have?" And he told him, "I've got like 10 after, but that doesn't seem right." Blah blah blah. And so that was the first weird thing that happened. And then when they finally look up at the screen, it kind of is going staticky or whatnot from the projection, and it just goes black, completely black. And then all the lights, like the big floodlights in the parking lot and whatnot, shut off. And people start freaking out. They're like, what is going on? Was there like a big power outage? So they try to start their cars. And we're talking hundreds of people in hundreds of cars in this parking lot. No one's cars would start. So something really weird was happening. And then that's when Scott noticed that over the projection screen, the movie screen, this chevron-shaped object, starts floating over the screen and over the parking lot. Oof. Solid black, no appendages, no signs of propulsion, no sound, nothing. And he said from tip to tip, this thing covered the entire parking lot. It was huge, absolutely massive. Yeah. And it just coasted over the parking lot, went into a field in the distance behind them. Lights come back on, cars start, watches go back to normal, movie starts. And everyone, you know, you would assume would be freaking out and talking to each other about this thing that just went over them and caused all this weird stuff to happen. Nothing. Scott got out of the car. He went to the bathroom, waited in line. Nobody talked about what just happened. Nobody. As if it didn't even happen. So
that's, to me, almost the strangest part of the whole thing. Like, exactly. I could see a sighting. That, to me, that makes more sense than this kind of collective amnesia.
Right, man. And that goes back to the early work of someone like Dr. Jacques Vallée, who talks about these UFOs being a control mechanism. They can control our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, if we remember what happened. So for Scott, I mean, he got back in the car, the movie went on, they watched it, they went home. He didn't remember any of this happening until many years later. He like saw a picture of a UFO in a book or something, and it triggered his memory, and everything flooded in. And I didn't really know, like, where do you go from there? You've got one guy saying this thing happened when hundreds of people were supposedly there. So, right. Of course, I tried to find anyone I could to corroborate the story. I couldn't. Scott tried. He couldn't. So, like, that's the thing about interviewing UFO witnesses. It can be very uncomfortable and awkward at times as well. It's not all exciting and cool all the time. It's like, dude, I can't just take your word for this. You're the only person. And I kept talking to him, kept trying to nail things down. I looked for newspapers at the time to see if anyone reported anything, or the drive-in, obviously, was shut down as the years went on. I couldn't find anything. And I put the story in the 2016 book, and because I trusted it. I had no reason not to believe him, but I didn't have anything to really back up his story. Right. And lo and behold, once that edition of the book came out, in between then and now, I had someone contact me. I got an email in my spam folder, you know, which I usually just delete all those, mass exodus. And it happened to say drive-in theater UFO in the subject line. And I was just like, what is this? This is not some like spam email. And I open it up, and there's this huge testimony from a girl whose boyfriend worked at the movie theater at that time. They lived a town over from this guy in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and they saw it. They saw the same craft. They described it the same way. The girl who said she saw it and the boyfriend saw it, her older sister saw it but didn't remember it happening. So what? Yeah. Some people are remembering, some aren't. But the fact that another witness came forward and read the book and heard the story, like, that was it for me. Like, this guy can now have vindication that I don't think he's lying. The public doesn't think he's lying. He wasn't crazy. And this happened. It happened. Yeah. So those are the moments I crave with all of this.
That's so now you have to do another edition where you get his update on how he feels being validated. You could just keep
Right,
rewriting this book
man.
every 4 years. You could do this for the next 10
Every
years.
4 years, I know. And you know what? The other big thing too is, I mean, we're living in an age where drive-in theaters are coming back because of everything going on in the world. Maybe we're going to get more drive-in theater UFO stories. I don't know.
I am hoping, because our vacation this year was traveling from state to state, going to different drive-in theaters, trying to keep it safe, socially distanced. When I read this story, it was all like the yellow highlighter going, and I said, yeah, I'm going to write a book about this. Like, not about that particular event, but I'm like, this is a great idea for a book. So,
Well, I should mention, someone stole your thunder, man. Preston Dennett, a UFO researcher, just came out with a book called UFOs at Drive-In Theaters. I'm not kidding you.
oh, well, see, he's probably got a legitimate, like, I studied this, and I'm just going to make some crazy fiction, so it'll be fine.
Got it.
That's how I get around it.
Hey, I want to quickly change pace before we go any further. Can you just show us what you're drinking tonight?
Oh, yeah, of course. I totally forgot. I thought, in keeping with the spirit of tonight's conversation, I've got a UFO beer here, Winter Blonde. It's a coffee vanilla stout.
Oh, man, that sounds good.
Or ale, sorry. I should know that by now, an ale. It's an ale.
That's all
but
right.
yeah, man, UFO beer all the way.
Well,
This is
just
amazing.
in time for, just in your honor, I happen to be drinking a UFO pumpkin.
Love it.
This was not planned, by the way.
This was not planned.
Ah,
I have this because we're going to do a pumpkin ale tasting. And so I happen to have this in reserve. And I was like, I should bust one of these. And I looked, I was like, oh man, if there was ever a night to pop one of these open.
So yeah,
there are no coincidences. I can tell you that much, Jack. This happened for a reason.
But now that I know that one's out there, I'm going back to the store. I want to try yours.
It's
So, yeah,
good, man.
pre-show we discovered that you guys are drinking UFO. So I said, I got to go down to the fridge to see what I have. I've got something related. It's Montauk, which we all know all the crazy stuff that went on in Montauk. So I've got their pumpkin ale. So see, and we all made sure Jack and I put on our flannel shirts.
Representing for the plaid man.
Yes, we will. That's an inside joke for anyone out there who listens to Into the Fray Radio. They'll get it. The phrases out there, as we call them. For everyone else, just know Plaid Man's in the house, all three of us.
By the way, if Jack and I quit our show, The Final Guys, this is another show that we do, and we hook up with Ryan for a weekly show, we're going to be the Flannel Guys. How's that sound?
That's true. I think we're all wearing more flannel than plaid.
Yeah, right.
So.
We have
That's all right.
we'll have to take a break during the summer.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm in this unfinished attic, and it is hot as can be up here tonight. It's like mid-November.
I know.
I should be freezing.
If
We're all going to be taking these off.
If we bail on the flannel halfway through, that's okay. We got the gag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got a question. I don't know if I'm jumping in. I don't want to step on your questions, Hunter, but
No, please. Just shut up. Okay, go ahead.
One of the big things is with the coronavirus has really shaken everything up. So, and with all the crap going on in the world, there's a lot distracting us, and it just seems like this evidence of UFOs was released by the military, essentially showing UFOs, and people were just so fed up with murder hornets and viruses and fires and stuff that they're like, yeah, okay, aliens are real. What else you got for me?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? I know we can get into the specific cases and stuff, but just on a 1,000-foot level, what's your thoughts on that?
I'll just add to it real quick. The recent admission saying that we have recovered craft that are from out of this world, that just kind of went out there, and I haven't heard anybody talk about this.
Yeah. So this is it's a convoluted story, but I'll try to make it as brief as I can. For any of your listeners and viewers know, 2017, New York Times broke the story about a secret Pentagon UFO program. I think everyone's pretty aware of that at this point. And I mean, that was a defining moment for ufology. None of us knew this was coming. None of us knew it existed. I mean, we thought the UFO investigation ended with Project Blue Book by the U.S. Air Force back in 1969. Clearly not the case. The government had been investigating UFOs after Blue Book up until ATIP, which was this Pentagon UFO program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and it made national headlines for a couple days. It was the biggest story out there. It
Yeah.
like crashed the New York Times website at one point. But then, like you guys mentioned, it went out with a whimper. You know, the world went on. Fires happened, murder hornets, whatever. Insert other thing here that distracted the public from one of the biggest disclosures on UFOs in history. And I mean, since then, we're just learning more. And you have to wonder, are we learning about this stuff now for a reason? Because so much else is going on in the world. Is this their way of being like, let's slip it in there while no one's really paying attention? I mean, those videos we saw, the military UFO videos from the U.S. Navy, were astounding. They were amazing. And, you know, those were leaked to the New York Times. And they were a big deal for a while. But finally, when the pandemic hit and the lockdown started to happen, that's when the Department of Defense finally said, we're officially putting those videos out there. Like, we know about them. We are officially giving them to the public. You're welcome. Yeah. Even though we've been looking at them for almost 2 years at this point. But again, I keep going back to this fact of, are they burying these stories for a reason? And Hunter, you bring up the off-world vehicles that we've heard about.
Right.
That the Pentagon has been briefed on UFOs that have possibly crashed or landed on our planet. And we have materials from them, and they're being studied. And the Pentagon's aware of this, and they're looking into it. And it again, made headlines for a couple of days and then disappeared. So I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take.
It's almost
that story got me tingling. Like my whole body was tingling when I saw that in the actual news. Yeah. And then, it just went away. I'm like, this is, in my lifetime, honestly, this is the biggest news story of all our lifetimes, if there's proof that we're not alone. And it's just been swallowed up by the election and everything else.
It's also kind of the social media climate we live in, where everything is a story for a week. That's how, listen, Donald Trump made his presidency on this. There would be one controversy, and then something else would come up the following week, and people's Twitter feed just goes to the next thing. And people have gotten to the point where they're just like looking for content. So they look at their phone and they go, oh, UFOs might be real. Oh, here's a life hack on how to make a casserole. You know, like it's just it's one of like 20 things that's flooding their feed. And so they're kind of like, a lot of them probably aren't even taking it seriously. They're just like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm not sure what that is. And they're not like taking a step back and going, the implications of this are unbelievable. But there's
mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jack, I have to add too, that article with the off-world vehicle comment, 12 paragraphs into the article. Like, really? You're going to wait till 12? And we know that's burying the story.
The lead.
Like, it probably took those authors, Leslie Kane, Ralph Blumenthal, the two people who wrote this article, they probably had to fight tooth and nail to just get that one paragraph in that article. And I actually respect the New York Times for being like, hold up, because I know for a fact that article was massive, and they had to cut 70% of it out because of editing, because unvetted sources, and stuff like that. So I actually respect that they went to those lengths to make sure they know what they're saying and they know what they're doing. So at least they got the comment in there somewhere in the article. But where it's going from there, guys, I can really only guess. But all I can say is stay tuned within the next couple weeks or so. If you thought the New York Times article in 2017 was big, things are about to get a lot more interesting in many ways. Many ways.
I'll tell you, the reason that story resonated with me was I have never seen a UFO. I've seen some suspicious things, but probably just planes or satellites or whatever, you know. And maybe I was a kid and was hoping I was seeing something. But my father, who is not the monster man like I am,
He's a pragmatic
The
man.
pragmatic man, mechanical engineer.
One of them.
He was in the Army, and he was in the radar room or whatever, and he was looking over this commander's shoulder or something who was at the display, and he said he saw a dot, like when it spins around, it's like, I forget how far each blip is. Something was moving much faster and turning, maneuvering way faster than anything should be able to maneuver. And the guy his superior officer was like freaking out, like, what the hell is this? I think they scrambled planes and stuff like that. And then it like disappeared or something like that. But to this day, he tells that story. And so when I heard that, I went right to him. I go, did you hear? Like, your story is being validated by like the real news. Like, it's not just In Search Of right now that's telling us this. It's the actual like White House is, or the military is telling us this. So that like was huge for me.
That's very powerful, man. And Hunter knows, having read the new edition, I interviewed the radar operator, chief operator of the now famous Tic Tac UFO event. One of those videos we saw from the Navy of this white Tic Tac shaped object that jets were scrambled to intercept this thing. And the way they described it was extraordinary. They were outmaneuvering our most sophisticated Air Force and Navy pilots, and it's amazing. But I did interview the chief radar operator who first tracked them, and we're seeing one Tic Tac in that video. He said there were dozens of them. He said it was literally raining UFOs out there, and he sent the jets up to intercept it. They had this weird thing happen, and then the lid was put on it. They were told not to talk about it and to keep it in, mostly because of the fear of ridicule, which is huge in the military when it comes to reporting UFOs. It's getting better, which we can definitely talk about. But this really affected that guy's life. Kevin, his name is Kevin Day.
I can imagine.
And talk about like PTSD. This dude's been in wartime. And he said this event affected him more than anything he's ever been through.
Wow.
Because he couldn't talk about it. Because it was a threat to our national security. Because it was the most incredible thing he'd ever seen. And he couldn't talk about it. And then finally, when that story broke in the New York Times and we saw those videos on CNN, he remembers watching the TV and just started bawling, crying. Because finally, someone was going to back him up and say, this happened. And now the witnesses of that event, specific event, they are coming out of the woodwork. So it's super exciting. So, yeah, maybe the public's not as excited and not really understanding the implication to what the government is telling us about UFOs. But for these military witnesses who were told to shut up or you saw things or you're an idiot, like, no. These are our most smartest, sophisticated people out there. And when they can't explain it, who the hell can?
Right. I know that chapter had me coming back to work late for lunch because I wasn't going to stop because it was moving. Because it wasn't just, you're not just reading like a dry account of what happened. I mean, we saw a really personal side. And that's why I like the book a lot too, because you see how it affects the people who experience these things. And Jack, what you don't know, maybe you don't know, these Tic Tacs are moving so fast at such speeds, and it would liquefy a human being inside one of these crafts.
That's what my father was saying about his radar tracking. He was like, a human could not have been in that. Like, it would have destroyed them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 80,000 feet altitude cap, down to the surface of the ocean within milliseconds, back up to 80,000 feet. No human could survive that. No human whatsoever.
And I don't think there's anything in nature that could replicate that could fool
maybe
radar.
Murder hornets, but
witnesses.
Other than that.
Damn murder hornets.
Oh, man.
So do you have an opinion on these Tic Tacs? Do you think there's anybody in those, or are they more like drones or sentries? I mean, what do you think?
Throughout the years, when I first started getting into the UFO topic, and I should say I got involved at age 13. That's when I interviewed my first UFO witness, who was a Vietnam veteran who had a sighting during Vietnam in the Pacific. And ever since then, that's my thing. Like Hunter said, I interview people and see how these things affect their lives, because that's a big part of it. Rather than just, I saw this, it was this big, whatever. Like, cool, but then what comes after that with your life and your family, your friends? What do they think about it? But anyways, getting back, I digress. The Tic Tacs themselves, and many UFOs, I should say, I believe are unmanned craft. And that's the only kind of determination I can make. We have reports of people seeing entities or pilots in these things. In my book, one specific case, someone saw windows and panels on a craft and saw things moving inside it. But when it comes to these Tic Tacs, I really do think that we're talking about some sort of drone technology. And look, if we're talking about aliens, look at what we do when we go to a planet. We send unmanned craft there first always, because we don't want to risk human lives. And even, just think of the implication to something like that. So, of course, they're going to send drones first to kind of scope it out and monitor us. I always go back to the first atomic bomb detonation. When we set that thing off, if we hadn't have been visited by aliens, we were damn sure visited after that happened, because they were probably like, "Oh crap!" Like,
yeah, look what they're doing.
Nuclear technology. Yeah, look what they're doing, and look what they could do to us or possibly themselves. And it's astounding. 160 cases I've come across from other researchers of UFOs seen over nuclear facilities. So if that doesn't tell you something and doesn't terrify people, I don't know what will.
But Jack, we went to that MUFON.
We went to 2 MUFON talks.
The one where who was the one with the nuclear silo? Salas? Commander Salas?
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that his name? Yeah, we watched. He had a recorded thing that we watched. That was really cool. But yeah, that's scary as can be, because if it's technology that we can't grasp our hands on, and I don't care where it's coming from, and it's over these areas of just immense power and weaponry, that's really.
And shutting them on and off. I mean, we're not just talking like hovering above the bases. I mean, we're talking adversely affecting ordnance at these places. I mean, you look at something like the 1980 Rendlesham Forest UFO event. For any of your listeners or viewers who don't know about that, go look into it now. This was a U.S. military base being leased to us in England at the time of the Cold War, and a UFO landed in a forest between this base and another base. And little did the UK know, but we were housing nuclear weapons secretly on our installation there. And a UFO landed, shot some beams at the bunkers where these nukes were being held, and affected them. So, What the hell? Like, what the hell?
That's a mind-blowing one, Jack. if you haven't looked that one up, Jack, you can spend an entire day with that.
I'm on it. I'm on it.
There's audio. There's audio documentation as the event was happening by the deputy base commander. He had a recorder at the time documenting everything as it was happening in real time. You can find it on YouTube. It's terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Say the name of it one more time for everybody.
Yeah, the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident. Just type in, Britain's Roswell, as they call it, as well. You can find it. It's a really interesting case. In fact, when I'm not doing UFO stuff, I'm a playwright here in New York City. You can probably hear the sirens and train outside. And I'm writing a play about the Rendlesham Forest incident. I found a way to kind of mix my passions together.
That's awesome.
If you can get that on Broadway, you found a way to get my butt back to Broadway. So you can do that.
For those prices, man. I know. If Broadway ever comes back.
Yeah, right.
I know.
That's the... Yeah.
So
see, maybe Rendlesham, I was going to say, maybe Rendlesham, the romp, will be the one to bring everyone back.
But just don't put any Disney princesses or stuff. That's because, having a wife and 2 daughters, that's all they ever wanted to see.
If you do it to all ABBA songs, though, it could be a lot more successful.
All ABBA songs.
That could work.
Oh,
I worked at Mamma Mia for 4 years, brother. If I hear an ABBA song one more time, I'm going to shoot myself in the head. You heard it here first.
Can I ask a quick question? I don't want to go on a too big of a tangent, but one of the big things that when you hear these reports, they'll say, well, it might have been experimental military stuff. Have you found a percentage of stuff of this that turns out to be that, or is it kind of never been proven that, oh yeah, that totally was like the, you know, the new bomber that they were, or something like that? What's the deal on that?
That's a really good question. I mean, and I try to stress to people, like, as a UFO researcher or investigator, if you're an active field investigator going out there and trying to find evidence and everything, our job is not to prove that UFOs are alien. Our job is to figure out what it was, just like it was for J. Allen Hynek back during the Project Blue Book days, to find a conventional answer and to figure out what it was. So, I mean, you look at something like MUFON, or there's other organizations out there. They're not looking for aliens. They're looking for answers to what people are seeing.
Right.
And when no other explanation can possibly be found, that's when you have a true unknown. So, yeah, I have no doubt that a large portion of UFO sightings are prosaic in nature. They might be weather anomalies. They might be top secret craft, anything, a misidentification, or they might be aliens. But I know so many people who have had triangular UFO sightings, myself included, who have kind of come to the conclusion that probably what we saw was some early prototype of the B-2 bomber, or
Right.
you know, early stealth technology. So yeah, I have no doubt that a lot of what we're seeing is human-made or human and something else. If we have off-world vehicle
Well, yeah.
technology, as we discussed earlier,
A little jump
who knows?
start.
Well, it's funny you say
yeah,
that,
little
because
jump start.
you know, we dabble in all this stuff, and I just watched your entire Jim Harold episode this afternoon about more of the paranormal stuff, and I love that. But one of my big knocks on any sort of paranormal investigation is 75% of the people that get into that are looking for ghosts. They're not looking for the truth.
Right.
You know, and same
Yeah.
thing with UFOs too, but you just see what
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, you have to come in as unbiased as you can. You know, no matter
Yeah.
how excited you might be on what side of the coin you're at. And that's the problem, is because so many people just are. You got a Philip J. Klass, who
Yeah.
a UFO could probably land on his lawn and shake his hand, and he would deny it. And you've got other
Yeah.
people who,
Well, I mean-
you know, are.
Fox Mulder over there.
That poster
That's
right
what I
behind
want to
me. I
believe.
want to believe
Yep.
that's the key word, want. And I think a lot of people who get into these topics, they want to believe it's alien or a disembodied spirit of someone they once loved, because that gives us comfort. That gives us, that gives us more excitement than we're used to. And I think that goes for a lot of these things, and even the conspiracy world as well.
Oh yeah.
We want to think that we have an explanation for things, and that we know what's going on. So yeah, let's go shoot up a pizza shop in New York because we think there's a pedophile ring there. Or let's say that
Yeah.
aliens abducted this person when it was really sleep paralysis. It doesn't end there. You guys are right. I think that want to believe outweighs the objective approach that a lot of people do with these topics. So for me, I don't really have the luxury of belief, because I've been doing this since I was 13, and I have absolutely no doubt that we have been visited at least once in our life, in our history of the world. But
Yeah.
again, I'm not out to prove aliens exist. I'm here to study UFOs and what they possibly could be and how they could affect our world.
Now, UFOs, I know they're trying to change it to UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, which is just, hey, we pull out the thesaurus to say the same thing, but try to get away from what they think is like the crackpot.
They're changing
Wait,
it to
but-
KFC instead of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah, because there's no chickens. They took chicken out
It's
of
not
there.
fried.
So
Don't
but-
tell me that.
I thought of the implications of going with UAPs, because you're a studier, you're a studier of ufology. If it's UAPs, it's UApology. So now we're going to have to apologize that we're into UFOs?
Yeah, well, I'm saying it right here. I'm not apologizing for anything. This is one of the most exciting things that could
That's
ever
right.
happen in the world. I mean, I think, the biggest two questions in life: where do we go when we die, and are we alone in the universe? So
Absolutely.
I think, Until you leave this mortal coil, you won't know the answer to that one. But I think in our lifetime, we'll know the answer to the other one. I really do.
I'll tell you what, I have a good friend who's into ceremonial magic, and I don't understand half of the stuff that he tells me. And there's other stuff that he's not allowed to tell me. And there are times where I just think he's a crackpot, but he's one of the smartest people and one of my closest friends. I trust him a lot. And the thing I like about why he's into this is because he's searching for the truth, and he wants to just know if there's something out there. There's more to life than what we can just see on the surface. So he's investigating these things and discovering things, and he'll come back with stories to me about things that have happened to him. And he's like, I don't know if that was a demon or if that was an angel or if that was my unconscious or my subconscious, but something was going on there. And I'm listening to it going, oh, you're scratching a whole nother level. You know, you've got along these lines. You're right, though. Like the big questions in life, if you put the word religion over it, it's fine to look into it. If you put other labels over it, then you're a crackpot sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if we're talking about, I grew up Roman Catholic, you know, the whole shebang. And you're talking about a dude who died and came back to life. That's a zombie. That's supernatural. Like the fact that we deny that because of religion is ridiculous. It's the most supernatural thing you can possibly think of. So I think, you know, you can look at the UFO topic or the paranormal through every lens you can possibly think of, whether it's psychology or magic or the hard sciences or the economy, politics, history. UFOs can be connected to anything. And that's what I find most exciting is there's room for everyone at the table. I mean, some people are just in it for the science.
Absolutely.
Some want to study the culture of the people. I want to get to the heart of the people having the experiences and what they think it is and what they experience, because I think that's often overlooked. The witness and what they think they saw, not what some author thinks they saw or investigator. You weren't there when it happened, so you cannot definitively tell this person what they saw or experienced. And I think that's really important. I think
Which
it's
is
really
what
important that,
you do a good job of when you talk, if somebody relates their story, you say. So I asked them, what do you think you saw? And I like hearing their answers. And it's a grab bag. Everybody takes this a different way. When we're talking about the 2017 story in the New York Times, that's probably the biggest thing. I thought the biggest story that I ever saw was that UFO hovering over O'Hare Airport, which was that 2008-ish around there? I got the date right.
2006.
6. Okay.
I love you too.
When that happened,
November of 2006.
We're on the anniversary right now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a UFO that was sighted by the tower, pilots, people on the ground, people on the highway. O'Hare Airport is not some tiny little podunk airstrip. This is a major thoroughfare for planes. And that was another one that got maybe 48 hours of pretty good coverage. And then, like the UFO that punched a hole in the clouds as it shot up into the sky, just disappeared. And before this, everything, the disclosure in 2017, and yes, I'll say disclosure because disclosure did happen. It's just that it fell on quasi-deaf ears.
I would agree with that, yeah.
But before that happened, I thought this was the biggest thing that had ever happened, only because of where it happened, how many people were involved, how many different angles there were to this. And again, and then I wonder, we get excited when the government tells us, here's the video. Yes, these are official. We have been studying this. So we accept that as truth, but all along we keep thinking they lie to us. So it creates such a conundrum. Like, who do I believe and when do I?
That's what he was saying. Is like, is there a reason why they're leaking this now? Or they could be like playing a shell game with us, or they're trying to distract us from something else, or it's like the algorithm that social media feeds you. It's they're leading you where you want to go. Like, are they doing that with us, or are they just playing catch up? Like, well, let's just own it and get it out there. Who knows what the damn motivation is?
Good point. Yep. I think alien hypothesis has masked a lot of top secret projects within the military, especially Roswell. I mean, when the public learned that aliens crashed and that was the story, they recovered a flying saucer. Of course, they're going to say, let them run with it. Just let them go.
Yeah,
Like,
have fun,
feed
kids.
that belief machine. Meanwhile, we're going to send, kids up in high altitude balloons to see how far they can go up before their heads explode. I'm not kidding you. These are stories I've heard of what Roswell could possibly have been. And that's why these people said that they found bodies and that they were small. And we're talking kids who were deformed. We're talking about kids who were mentally and physically disabled, that were snatched off the street. No one wanted them. No one cared about them. Let's put them up, see what happens with them instead of using monkeys. And, God, if that's what happened at Roswell, that's way darker than aliens having crashed on our planet. So, of course, they're going to go with, let them think aliens. Let them think aliens. Meanwhile, look at how atrocious our space program was with hiring Nazis, too. I mean,
I was just thinking that.
Whatever it takes to get into space first.
Yeah. I'm drinking Montauk beer, and Plum Island was the first person to grab was someone out of Project Paperclip.
Yep.
It's like, go over, have fun making diseases, have a ball.
Yeah, man. In Montauk, too, like taking kids off the street and doing mind control experiments on them, too. Like, of course they're going to do this. We've seen what our government and our, military are capable of. MK Ultra, the Tuskegee experiments. They will go to great lengths to do things to their own people for the benefit of science, as it were. So it's scary. It's scary. And I'm not really a conspiracy guy, but everything I'm talking about right now is proven and documented. So
right. Yeah, no, this is definitely take your tinfoil hats off, kids. This is you're hearing some truths here. This isn't some wild speculation.
Boys, yeah.
I know the Men in Black might be popping out at our back door tonight.
That's all right. We're the Men in Black T-shirts. We'll be fine, Jack. So Ryan, what's a case that you think is like a great case to talk about that you think doesn't get enough attention?
The one I kind of always go to, and it holds a special place in my heart because this was the first time I ever requested a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act request to get information on a UFO case. And I have John Greenwald, who some of your listeners might know, runs a website called The Black Vault, where he gets every declassified file on UFOs, JFK, experiments we've done in the past. He gets them and compiles them on this amazing website. And he walked me through how to fill out one of these requests to get it to the right people because, hey, they get bombarded with these requests all the time. Like, tell me what happened in Roswell, this, that. And if you don't give it to the right person, the right agency, the right desk of that agency, the right person working at that desk at that agency, they're not going to give you anything. They don't have time for that. Yeah. So I worked for over 2 months on drafting this request, and I got back the most incredible documents I could have ever asked for, and it was astounding. So this was a case in Tehran, Iran, back in 1976.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people don't really know about it. And because we don't really look at cases anywhere else in the world but here in America a lot of the times. And
that's true.
76, again, we're talking kind of Cold War times. And weird, strange lights and objects were being sighted over the city of Tehran. And people were reporting it to law enforcement, the local FAA, and they had no idea what was going on. So it then got rerouted to the Air Force, the Iranian Air Force, and they sent up pilots to investigate, try to figure out what these things were. So they get up there in the air, and they start seeing things up there, lighted objects, things moving at unbelievable speeds, things just hovering in place that are massive, and their instrumentation starts to go down on their planes. Their everything was malfunctioning. Communication back to the tower, their emergency equipment wasn't working, and they were freaked out. So they were getting the hell out of here. So they go back to base. They send up a general. He's like, all right, you guys are scared. I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to take care of this. So he hops in a plane. He goes up there. and he gets closer to the object than they did, and he saw, and this is all documented, mind you, he saw a massive diamond-shaped craft with multicolored lights all around it, just hovering there, and he couldn't believe his eyes. And the closer he got, the more his instrumentation started to fail. And then what happened was, as he was kind of trying to get closer, an object comes out of the diamond and starts pursuing his plane. So he didn't know if this was a missile or what was going on. So he books it out of there, and this thing's chasing him. And he's having a cat fight with this mini UFO or drone or whatever this thing popped out of the diamond for like a prolonged amount of time. And also, his weapon stopped working. He was ready to lock on this thing and fire, and he couldn't. And it was terrifying. I mean, the way he had described it, he said, I've never been so scared in my life. I didn't know what to do. So finally, that object, he outmaneuvers it by doing a negative G nosedive. It gets in front of him, and he gets a lock on it. And that's when the thing just disappeared out of sight. And he doesn't know if it left, if it crashed, whatever. But he goes to look for the diamond. Diamond's gone too. So he goes back to base. And I'm not kidding you. As he's getting out of the plane, there's already United States intelligence officers there to question him. Because, mind you, we were in Tehran. We were leasing our planes to Tehran at the time. So they probably wanted to know what the hell outmaneuvered our most sophisticated airplanes and what is going on here. So they grilled this dude for weeks on end. They gave him every kind of psychological test he could think of. He was perfectly stable, sane, everything of what he saw. And this thing stayed quiet for many years after until all these documents started coming out about it. And within the stuff I found from the Defense Intelligence Agency, the United States Air Force, the CIA, the NSA, they all were on the ground investigating this thing and wanted to know what it was. And it was just an incredible case. The pilot came forward to the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. to talk about this, and he died a couple years ago. But what an amazing story, and one that a lot of people don't know about, and one I have the documents to prove actually happened.
Oh, that's great that you have the documents. 'Cause I've heard of that case, and anytime you involve the military, and we're talking on Veterans Day right now, and I'm the son of a veteran, Jack's the son of a veteran. I don't know about you, Ryan.
Grandfather, yep.
So, I tend to believe our vets, especially if you've gotten to the point where you're a pilot or you're doing radar control. I mean, you are fully vetted and trained to the nines. So it's very hard to misinterpret things. I mean, look, they're human, but you'd have to be, I don't know, smoking peyote.
They are trained
come up with some of these things.
That's also why I like hearing ghost stories from cops. Because they see so much, so whenever they're like, oh no, I was in that building and something weird's going on in there. Because they've seen everything.
Because they're so matter of fact.
Yeah, they're so matter of fact, and they've seen it all. So they're like...
Yeah, that was a ghost.
That was a ghost.
Oh, no, I ain't going in there at night. The rookie can go in there. Hey, I got a quick question for you. Because the thing I'm most impressed with, you got a cool website, you got a cool podcast, you've got an incredible Rolodex of people you've interviewed. But the number one thing that impressed me about you was that you had Reese Darby on your show.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, my God, man.
That was, hey, look, when I want a guest, I have no shame. I will shoot for the stars and land wherever I land. And with him, I had known he had an interest in the topic. He had a podcast about aliens. So I'm like, what's the harm? Like, what do I have to lose? He'll just tell me to F off and go away, you little, you little plebeian. And to my surprise, within, I'm talking hours of me reaching out, he was like, absolutely, when do you want to do it? Oh. And it was one of the most incredible conversations I've had. I mean, not just about UFOs, but X-Files, which I'm a huge
When you asked him about the Kolchak
that's the best episode of the entire show.
I wanted to reach through and high-five you because here's the Night Stalker novel from the 70s. Yes. You're talking to two huge Kolchak guys. So listen, I love.
Is there a reboot coming? I got it. You guys would probably know. Are we getting
There
a reboot?
was one a few years ago that was awful.
Oh, okay. I did not
What?
know that.
Yeah, it was
Stuart. What's
beyond
his
terrible.
name?
I can't remember
The
who
guy
he
from
was.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Stuart, whatever his name was in it. It was bad.
Yeah.
They keep talking about possibly, but there's nothing imminent coming
You gotta
up.
find the right person.
But I mean, look,
Well,
he
yeah,
Flight of the
you gotta find-
Conchords. He's in What We Do in the Shadows, and then you mentioned the Kolchak, and his story about that was tremendous.
Yeah.
And that was the
Yeah.
absolute best episode of that season. So
Oh,
yeah,
bar none. I don't even recognize season 10 and 11 really, except for Reese Darby's episode, and then the one in the last season with the what do they call that? The Mandela effect. Is that
Oh,
right?
the Mandela effect. That was so
Yeah.
good.
there's
Whenever
one.
that guy who writes the funny episodes is in, I'm all in.
Is that the one where
Yeah.
Mulder's line dancing?
Yes.
No, that was the one where he
Nope.
was tripping on shrooms. I
That
think.
was
Oh
awesome.
gosh.
Yeah.
There were
yeah.
nuggets in
That one
those
was good
two
too.
seasons.
Because that's why he sees the lone gunman too.
Yeah.
All right, well, I just
yeah.
thumbs up for getting him. Now you're making me feel like I need to start getting aggressive with some of these people.
Hey,
Yeah, that was
like
great.
I said, man, just reach for the stars. Honestly, like you'd be surprised, especially right now. Like
Yeah.
you'd be
Yeah, where are
surprised
they
how much
going?
time everyone's got on their hands. Like they'll say
So
yes in a
true.
heartbeat just to not talk to their like significant other, you know,
I'm a
or their
fanatic.
kids. You know?
I can tell you
Yeah.
that. I know. I don't want you to leave tonight without talking about the most terrifying aspect of UFO lore is the abduction scenario. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and you've got Whitley Strieber's Communion right behind you, which that book
do, yes.
scared the
Good eye,
bejesus
man.
out
Glad
when I
God
was
that-
16 and I read it. And
Same.
I bought everything he wrote up until a point. The follow-up to that book is even more terrifying. What was it? Breakthrough or something like that? I forget. Transformation?
Yeah, there was transformation and then confirmation, I think.
Transformation is the one
Yeah.
where he was walking in the woods and having these conversations, and that one flipped my wig for whatever reason back then.
It's a crazy story, man. Yeah, I've spoken to him on and off the record, and I mean, something happened to him. You know, to what extent I can't tell you, but
Right.
we would not have that image of that goddamn alien haunting me every night in my nightmares, if not for Whitley Strieber. So yeah.
Yeah, I think those are the scariest stories because they're so invasive. There's nowhere you can go. There's nowhere you can hide. If they want you, they're going to get you. What, aside from Whitley, are there any abduction cases that you've heard that really kind of chill your spine when you either talk to them or you've heard about it?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking kind of mainstream cases, Travis Walton, like you met him,
Yeah.
highly, highly credible case, terrifying case. At least the movie made it out to be really terrifying. He has a lot of qualms with how the movie represented his actual event, but that's a
Very
story for
different.
another time.
Yeah,
Very
that's a
different.
very different event than what they show in the movie, but he understands why.
The one for me that I kind of go to in terms of what I do, talking about the people and how it affected their lives, the one for me happened to a guy right here in New York, up in Harlem, actually. This is back in the 80s, and, you know, no BS, African-American dude living in the most dangerous part of Manhattan at the time. And he remembers going to bed one night with his girlfriend, and they're sleeping, and he wakes up because he sees something, you know, piercing almost through his eyelids. He opens his eyelids, and there's this glowing blue light at the end of the bed. He's like, what the hell is going on? Am I dreaming? You know, he starts like, you know, hitting himself. No, not dreaming. And out of the blue light, he can see those eyes right there.
Ugh.
Almond-shaped eyes staring back at him. And he told me, dude, I'm like 250. I can bench my weight, and I am a tough guy. But in that moment, I put the sheets over my head, and I just curled up like a baby. I was so scared. And he starts like tapping his wife, like, wake up, and she wouldn't wake up. And we do hear this in abduction cases where if you're in bed and a abduction is occurring, your partner or the person in the room often will be paralyzed or won't be responding. So he's like checking under her nose to even see if she's breathing. He thought she was dead. And luckily she was breathing, but he could not for the life of him wake her up. So then, I mean, the story just goes nuts. He's in the bed. He feels like the bed has been lifted out of the room. He can smell the air outside and the trees. And once he takes the covers off, his girlfriend's gone and he's in a craft. And he doesn't know what's going on. But these beings show up very similar to those ones. And they start communicating with him telepathically. And he starts getting these images in his head of prayer hands and a lightning bolt going through the prayer hands. He's like, what is this? Like, what is going on? And he wakes up out of what he thought was a nightmare. And it kept happening after that. He kept having reoccurring experiences with these beings, giving him images and symbols and messages that he couldn't quite understand. And I'll run through it because this one could take a whole episode.
Right.
He goes to the Strand bookstore in New York, which I'm sure you two are familiar with. A used bookstore, 3 stories, huge,
quite
amazing.
A few books there.
Quite a few, yeah. I heard the place is sinking. I don't know if that's an urban legend, but
from the way.
But yeah, he goes there and he takes out a book on abductions, or goes to buy the book by Harvard psychiatrist John Mack about alien abductions. And he goes up to the counter and he told me that he felt like a teenager buying condoms at a 7-Eleven or whatever. He was so embarrassed. He just wanted to pay for it and get the hell out of there. But the dude at the cash register starts grilling him. He's like, "Whoa, this is an interesting book. Like, do you believe in this stuff?" He's like, maybe." He's like, "Do you think this happened to you or something?" And he doesn't know why, but he just nodded. And the guy looks at him and he just goes, "I think I was too." And boom, like instant friendship. These guys started talking about their shared experiences and working through them. And I'll end it with this, that prayer symbol with a lightning bolt. He finally interpreted this as prayer healing and something to do with spirituality. Wasn't a religious guy before this, but afterwards he moved out of New York and he started his own Unitarian Universal ministry down south. And now is looking at the UFO and alien abduction thing as a miraculous experience, something he can infuse into his religious beliefs. And hey, like however you deal with these things or cope with them or interpret them, all the power to you. But I bring that one up because there's scary elements to it, but at the end of the day, it changed the entire course of this guy's life.
Right.
And I don't give a shit what it was. Excuse me. Sorry.
No.
But okay. I don't really
shit.
care. Okay. I don't care. I don't give a shit what happened to him. It changed him for the better. And if he's going to go with that, awesome. Because for every one of him, there's someone who becomes depressed or becomes an alcoholic or internalizes it and never talks about it. And look, I'm not saying these are aliens taking people. I'm saying these people have had experiences they cannot explain. They were traumatic. They don't know what it was. They're perfectly stable, sane individuals with no history of abuse of any kind that could be masked as alien abduction. They're not fantasy prone. Something's happening to them. And I don't know what it is, but my God, whatever it is, it's amazing. It's scary. It's cool. It's everything in between. So yeah, I'll end with that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking if he had that experience like 200 years ago, that's a solely religious experience. Right. So there's no UFOs. So it makes you think all these different experiences throughout time, all these paranormal things, are they one and the same? Are they all just interpretations of society at the time? And really, what is it? We have no idea. There are so many theories that everyone's trying to do this grand unified theory of the paranormal right now. And is Bigfoot related to UFOs, related to ghosts, related to NDEs and everything else? And it can, I will sometimes spend an entire day just bouncing from one thing to another. And I'm trying to like formulate some theory and my mind just melts. And I'm like,
I know, man.
I don't know. I just don't
Welcome
know. And maybe it's
to my world. Yeah.
But
every time I think I know something, it changes the next day. And I love it. I think that's awesome. It keeps me going. Like, if I found the answer tomorrow to the UFO mystery, what the hell am I going to do with the rest of my life? Like, I've dedicated so much time to this and so much of my energy that if I finally found the answer, I probably, A, won't like the answer. It's probably either far more complex than I thought or way more mundane than I thought. But I love the journey. And it's like meeting people like you guys and people in the UFO community or people like Reese Darby. Like, that never would have happened if I had not had a UFO sighting, if I had not started a UFO podcast and gotten into all this stuff. So, like, I say just embrace it. No matter what it is, take the journey, take the leap, and, like, try to figure it out because it's fun. It really can be fun and scary as shit, too.
Yeah. I will tell you, I had a one sleep paralysis experience in my life. I was 18 or 19 and I was sick. So I was up in bed. My girlfriend, who is now my wife, she was downstairs. I was upstairs taking a nap, and I woke up because I saw behind my eyelids, I saw like my room was bathed in green light. So I opened up my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, there were just shadows all around me, standing over me in the bed, and I'm trying to scream, and I can't scream, and I feel like I can't breathe, and I'm just trying to call for my girlfriend. And the only thing that broke me out of the terror was at one point, Mr. Peanut showed up and bent down, looked at me, and took off his top hat. And when he did that, I just snapped out of it, and I screamed, and my girlfriend came running up, and she's like, "What?" I said, "I thought there were aliens in the room, and it was just Mr. Peanut." But that moment, people who I have a daughter who suffers from sleep paralysis. She gets it at least once a week. Like some people once, twice a lifetime. She's once a week. It's terror that you can't even imagine. And I think it's very easy for people who are looking into these abduction scenarios sometimes to just go sleep paralysis. Like Whitley Strieber, they studied him intensely over this, trying to figure out if it was sleep paralysis. But even if it's not, man, the mind is a weird, weird thing, man. And maybe all of this is just our mind, just the collective mind together. It could be, or it could be some guy named Larry. He lives over in the Bronx and lives above a deli. Who knows?
Yep.
But
that's the he's in charge of the simulation, right? Of everything the Matrix we're living in. Yeah. Damn it, Larry.
Did you watch Umbrella Academy? Did you watch Umbrella?
No, I've heard about it. I love Gerard Way, the guy who wrote it, the My Chemical Romance singer and everything, but I haven't seen the show.
You should watch that. If you like the whole Larry thing, you should watch Umbrella Academy.
Okay. I knew that had Larry? To be a reference to something, yeah.
By the way, I've never watched this, so...
Oh, I loved it.
Channeling Umbrella Academy. I'm gonna watch
I loved it.
All right, we're not going to keep you all night. This was just amazing because I could probably keep you here until 4 a.m. I don't want to do that to you,
man.
Because I want you to say, "Hey, I want to come back on the show again." Not, "Oh, they wore me out." So, where can people find you in the world of ufology here?
I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, as you guys know. I'm all over social media. I'm taking a little break right now with my personal social media just because of all the crap going on in the country. I can't do it. I can't follow it every day.
Yeah.
It's just
sometimes it's best to check
it's
out.
Toxic.
Exactly. But I am all over Twitter and Facebook with my podcast, Somewhere in the Skies. So you can find me there. Somewhereintheskies.com is my website. I got all my podcast episodes, articles I've written there, and the book's on Amazon, paperback, ebook, and actually I found out today, thanks brother, audiobook coming in the next week or so. So that'll be exciting. And you can find that wherever fine books are sold.
By the way,
Amazon
the audiobook will be read by Gilbert Gottfried.
Or Reese Darby.
Or Reese Darby. Ah, man. I hope. One of those two.
We're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Actually, you should have Christopher Walken do the audio because he was in the Communion movie. There we go.
Oh, my God.
Good connection.
What a weird movie. You guys got to cover that sometime on your show.
I have watched that movie. Ooh. I've watched it no less than 50 times. Yeah. In fact, when I was in a band once, we were putting just snippets of dialogue from that movie into all of our songs because it's so trippy.
Ah, man,
love that.
my buddy Andrew, who lives here in New York, he's a comedy TV writer. He works with ABC and stuff. We did a review of Communion, and whew, man, when you hear it from a screenwriter standpoint, oh my God, I can't even imagine. So yeah, you can find that episode. That'll keep you entertained for a couple hours. But
Oh,
no, I
awesome.
just want to say, this was awesome. I am so happy we finally made it happen. You guys are not only my East Coast brothers, but you're also my brothers in arms with all this weird shit that we
And
do.
your beer brother.
Cheers,
Beer.
beer bros.
Beer bro.
Beer, plaid, everything.
Yeah, well, listen,
No,
Got it.
you are welcome back anytime. We'll definitely, this is a blast. There's 1,000 more questions we could ask and stories we want to swap because we didn't even get into any of the other paranormal stuff. So,
Oh man.
so next
But
time.
yeah, whenever you
Here's the
guys need
key.
it.
You said that there might be something big coming down, so we'd love to have you on after the dust settles on that one day. We can get into. We'll do a whole episode just on whatever that is.
Yes, like I mentioned, I don't know that much, so I can't pretend like I'm some huge insider, but I have heard from several sources, very highly trusted sources, that that 2017 New York Times article was nothing compared to what we're going to find out soon. So stay tuned. The year of UFOs is not over yet, and yeah, guys, keep looking up. I'll tell you that much.
I hope it's news that Trump is Bigfoot. It would explain everything. It makes
really would.
sense.
Of course.
The biggest 4-year prank of all time. I'll keep my mouth
Right,
shut.
Jack, you know what to do. You know what to do, Jack.
All right, everybody. Ryan, thank you so much. And everybody watching, thanks a lot. Go check him out. Buy his book. Give him some love. And we will see you next time on Monster Man.
Monster Man.
All right.
Cue the music.
Monster, Monster Man, Monster.